Hello and good evening. Thanks for joining us. You're watching News at 10. I'm Mohammed Amin Carlos. ASEAN Digital Ministers today launched the ASEAN Digital Master Plan ADM 2025 to realize the vision of shaping this region as a renowned digital community and main economic bloc. Communications and Multimedia Minister Dato' Saifuddin Abdullah said the implementation of the master plan will be driven by a safe and transformative technology and digital ecosystem. 2025 has outlined 8 desired outcomes, among others, to speed up the recovery of the ASEAN region from the impact of COVID-19. The second objective is to improve the quality and coverage of mobile and fixed broadband, while at the same time creating a competitive and sustainable market for the digital supply services.
Ini adalah suatu lonjakan ke hadapan selepas kita sudah ada 2 pelan induk ICT sebelum ini. Ada 8 keberhasilan utama yang ingin dicapai, tetapi kalau nak diringkaskan ke dalam 3 komponen, maka komponen itu ialah pertama kesaling hubungan, yang kedua ialah pembangunan kapasiti dalam pelbagai bidang, termasuklah pendidikan, sosial dan juga e-dagang, dan yang ketiga ialah tentang keselamatan cyber. Dan kesemua negara ASEAN, termasuk juga negara-negara dialog yang bersama-sama kami, memberikan komitmen untuk mencapai ke-88 keberhasilan itu.
The minister said this during the closing ceremony of the first ASEAN Digital Ministers meeting, ADG Min 1, in Kuala Lumpur. Well, on another matter, Dato' Saifuddin Abdullah said the government will be creating a new education television channel to ensure better implementation of the Home Teaching and Learning System, or PDPR, throughout the MCO period. Well, he added that the new channel, which will be broadcast via RTM, is expected to begin operating in the first quarter of the year.
RTM memang sudah ada pengalaman mempunyai TV pendidikan selama beberapa tahun, antara tahun 1972 sehingga hujung tahun 2008. Kita menyediakan saluran itu untuk Kementerian Pendidikan. Dan baru-baru ini semasa PKP yang pertama juga kita ada kelas di rumah, 2 sesi, 2 jam pada waktu pagi dan 2 jam pada waktu petang menggunakan saluran TV OK. RTM sebenarnya sekarang ini pun sedang bersedia dan sudah pun membuat ujian-ujian tentang satu saluran. Terlalu awal untuk disebut apa namanya, tetapi memang itu disiapsiagakan untuk menjadi TV pendidikan.
The date of Sijil Pelajaran Malaysia, or SPM, examinations will remain as scheduled on 22nd February 2021. Education Director General Dato' Dr. Habibah Abdul Rahim said the Education Ministry will also ensure the safety of the students throughout the examination period. Well, she explained that any student who tested positive for COVID-19 or undergoing quarantine during the examination period will have to submit a letter of proof from the hospital before being allowed to take alternative exams. However, any infected patient who recovered from the virus and discharged from hospital or cleared from being quarantined will have to sit for the remaining papers. Well, she said the ministry will announce another date for the students to sit for the alternative exams. On a related development, the Education DG said the ministry has no plan to downgrade the marking grade of the national examination, as it is recognized by University of Cambridge. Well, she said if the marking grade is downgraded, 2020 SPM candidates might not receive the same certifications as candidates in the previous years. Well, Malaysia reported 18 deaths from COVID-19 today, the highest ever daily death toll since the pandemic began last year. Well, the figure surpassed the previous peak on 8th January of 16 deaths in a day, taking the number of deaths due to COVID-19 to 660. Well, according to a statement from the Health Director General, Chancellor Dr. Noor Hisham Abdullah today, 17 of the dead were Malaysians and one was a foreigner. He also posted that currently 251 patients are treated in intensive care units while 102 needed ventilators. Well, he said there were 3,631 new infections, including 6 imported cases, bringing the accumulated positive cases to 176,180. Selangor was the state with most new cases with 782, followed by Johor 466, Sabah 453, Kuala Lumpur 435, Sarawak 229, and Pulau Pinang 202. Other states with 3-digit increased are Negeri Sembilan with 197 new cases, Terengganu 108, Kedah 166, Kelantan and Perak sharing 161 each. Now, active cases in Malaysia now are currently 42,814. Chancellor Dr. Noor Hisham also announced 12 new clusters today, while 86 clusters recorded new cases and the numbers of active clusters currently at 335. He added that 2,554 patients were discharged today, making total recoveries from COVID-19 to 132,706, or 75.3%. Well, the COVID-19 rapid antigen test kit RTK-AG should be handled by trained individuals. Health Director General Chancellor Dr. Noor Hisham Abdullah in his Twitter post stated that to get an accurate result, RTK-AG tests should also be performed within the first 5 to 7 days following the onset of symptoms. Well, most specifically, he said the RTK-AG should be used for a new cluster with a high positivity rate, and when concordance study shows positive predictive value, high specificity. Well, Chancellor Dr. Noor Hisham also listed 5 general recommendations for using RTK-AG test kit for COVID-19 screenings. Well, among the recommendations are the RTK-AG should be used when the real-time reverse transcription polymerase chain reaction or RT-PCR test is not available, or the turnaround time for RT-PCR technique is more than 48 to 72 hours. Well, recently, Prime Minister Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin said that Malaysia was among the first countries to use the RTK-AG for COVID-19 screening tests, and the Ministry of Health had been using it since June last year. Well, the kit was evaluated by the National Public Health Laboratory, MPHL, and Institute of Medical Research, IMR, to ensure it is in line with the set standard, and was later approved by Medical Device Authority, MDA, to be widely used on communities. Well, 3,739 foreign workers had been tested positive for COVID-19, while another 186,690 turned out negative. Senior Minister for Security, Dato' Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob, said 190,429 foreign workers had undergone the COVID-19 screening so far. Well, in a statement today, Dato' Seri Ismail Sabri announced that the government had instructed a mandatory COVID-19 screenings on foreign workers nationwide at 852 clinics involved in the program. Well, at the same time, and the same statement, Dato' Seri Ismail Sabri also reported 660 individuals were held yesterday for breaching the SOPs, and 621 of them were compounded, while 39 others were remanded for various offences, such as not wearing face masks, not observing physical distancing, crossing states or districts without permissions, premises operating more than the stipulated times, and others. Well, meanwhile, Dato' Seri Ismail Sabri said the immigration detention block and quarters in Pekan Dinas, Pontian will be put under the Enhanced Movement Control Order, the EMCO, from 23rd January to 5th February. Well, the senior minister said the decision was made based on the advice from the Health Ministry after conducting assessment on the locality. Dato' Seri Ismail Sabri added that 360 tests had been carried out so far, where 177 positive cases were detected. The enforcement of EMCO aims to reduce the movements of detainees and to avoid any transmissions between personnel, family, and outside community. Well, the government's decision to allow eateries to operate until 10 p.m. starting today will alleviate some of the severe challenges faced by businesses since the movement control order, the MCO 2.0, took effect. Now, the Malaysian Employees Federation, or MEF President, Dr. Syed Hussein Syed Husman, said the decision to extend the operating hours was welcomed, especially for the restaurant operators who are facing massive losses, and some had even been forced to shut down. Elaborating further on the matter in a statement released, Dr. Syed Hussein said with the drastic drop in the number of customers during the MCO 2.0, well, restaurant operators were desperately struggling to meet their costs of operations, such as rentals, salaries, loan repayments, and utility costs, and the increasing prices of goods. Well, in view of the circumstances, MEF is thankful to the government for its continual interventions to fine-tune the delicate balance between saving lives and livelihoods. Dr. Syed Hussein also reminded employers to abide strictly to the standard operating procedure and continue to be committed to stop the spread of COVID-19. Well, coming up, government to revise rural poverty eradication programs. Well, Malaysia is expected to continue to chart an economic recovery based on the 7.1% increase in the leading index LI to 109.1 points in November 2020 against 120.1 points a year earlier. And Chief Statistician Dato' Sri Dr. Muhammad Uzair Mahirin said the monthly change in the LI showed the same trend, rising 0.4% in November 2020 against a negative 0.7% in the previous month. Well, in a statement today on the leading coincident and lagging indexes for November 2020, Dato' Sri Muhammad Uzair said the growth was propelled mainly by the real imports of semiconductors, particularly electronic integrated circuits. Well, he said in spite of a better performance of the LI, the re-implementation of the movement control order, the MCO, as well as the deployment of vaccines are posing uncertainties in the future. The LI is used to predict the economic direction in average of 4 to 6 months ahead. Dato' Sri Dr. Muhammad Uzair also said the second phase of the Malaysia Population and Housing Census 2020 via face-to-face interview was rescheduled following the implementation of the MCO 2.0. Therefore, he urged those who had not completed the census to take the opportunity to fill in the online census or e-census, which was reopened. Well, Bank Negara Malaysia's, or BNM's, international reserves stood at $107.8 billion as at 15 January 2021. Well, in a statement today, the central bank said the reserves position is sufficient to finance 8.7 months of retained imports and is 1.2 times total short-term external debt. Well, the central bank said the main components of the international reserves were foreign currency reserves valued at $97.8 billion, International Monetary Fund reserves position at $1.4 billion, special drawing rights at $1.2 billion, gold at $2.4 billion, and $5 billion of other reserves. Well, it said the assets comprise gold and foreign exchange and other reserves, including SDRSs amounting to 433.12 billion ringgit, and Malaysian government papers, deposits with financial institutions, loans and advances, land and buildings, and other assets. The Rural Development Ministry, KPLB, will revise 20 programs related to the eradication of rural poverty in line with the current poverty line, or PGK, and the situation of the COVID-19 pandemic. Minister Dato' Dr. Abdul Latif Ahmad said this was to avoid duplication of programs.
Fokus kedua adalah untuk membasmi kemiskinan dan meningkat pendapatan penduduk luar bandar. Kita sedia maklum, baras garis kemiskinan telah dipindah daripada ringgit Malaysia RM960 kepada RM2,208 pada tahun 2019.
Commenting further, Dato Dr. Abdul Latif said the ministry would also work with other agencies such as the Forest Research Institute Malaysia, FRIM, and the Department of Agriculture in an effort to pioneer new economic resources to help increase the income of the rural population. He also said the ministry would introduce new strategies to boost rural tourism and ecotourism activities that were severely affected by the spread of COVID-19. He said KPLB would also strengthen the supply chain system and the marketing of rural entrepreneur products through Desa Mall at KPLB to increase online sales, especially during the Movement Control Order, the MCO period. In addition, he said KPLB would focus on human capital development programs to empower rural communities. Meanwhile, the minister said KPLB hoped that the 539 infrastructure projects planned for this year could be implemented according to schedule despite the constraints and challenges caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. Well, the Tanjung Batu Teluk Sera waterfall in Segari, Berwas, is still preserved and not affected as it is not part of the quarry site in the Segari Melintang Forest Reserve. Now, Perak Health, Science, Environment and Green Technology Committee Chairman Muhammad Akmal Kamarudin said photographs showing it had been affected and which had gone viral were actually images of it being affected by the seasonal waterway, which occurs especially during heavy rains. Well, in a statement released, Muhammad Akmal said the waterway was formed as a result of a water reservoir 200 meters high in the licensed area of Compartment 16 or Block E of the Segari Melintang Forest Reserve. Well, he also said that the waterfall is located outside the area that has been licensed for quarrying activities. He noted that a preliminary investigation found that the quarry operator had violated the stipulated environmental impact or EIA conditions, including not appointing a qualified environment officer. Now, this led to a failure to control erosion and sediment at the next project site and thus affecting the waterway. Muhammad Akmal explained that the area obtained a license for the production of rocks or quarrying in 2014, as well as the approval of the Environmental Impact Assessment EIA report on 2nd October 2017. In addition, he said the Environmental Management Plan or EMP for the project was approved on 25th October 2018 before the quarry scheme approval letter was released on 1st February 2019. Well, a woman in her 30s died after a car crashed head-on with a lorry at kilometre 80 of Jalan Ipoh, Kuala Kangsar today. The victim, Tan An Chi, suffered grave injuries and was declared dead at the scene, while the lorry driver escaped without any injuries. In Tapa District Police Chief Superintendent 1 Azharuddin Wan Ismail said the incident, where the lorry driver lost control of the vehicle and entered the opposite lane before colliding head-on with the victim's car. The lorry driver was detained to assist with further investigations and the victim's body was sent to Tapa Hospital for post-mortem. The incident is being investigated under Act 41, subsection 1 of the Road Transportation Act 1987. That concludes this evening's news at 10. In our top story, ASEAN Digital Master Plan launched, charting 5-year vision for ASEAN digital development. Well, folks, join us again at 12:30 tomorrow afternoon. I'm Mohammed Amin Carlos, and do stay tuned to Saluran Berita RTM and have a pleasant evening.